Where's Joe Merchant? By Jimmy Buffett. I was watching the Cubs game and eating a fried shrimp platter at Babalu's when Rudy Barrino burst through the door like Geraldo Rivera on a drug raid. I had met Rudy at the Chart Room Bar in Key West, and I wasn't a fan. I had no fondness for him or the accusing, fabricated stories he published in his father's paper, a yellow journalism rag called the National Lighthouse. Rudy Barrino was one of those middle-aged men who looked into the mirror and refused to buy the hard truth of the aging process. His squatty frame carried about an extra 40 pounds above his fighting weight in the form of love handles and a potbelly that spilled over the waist of his Sansabelt slacks. He insisted his pants still fit perfectly, although the fly would never zip up all the way. Rudy had no ass at all, and from the side it looked as if somebody had flattened his butt with a 2x4. Yet when Rudy looked at his physique in the mirror, he saw himself as a Tom Selleck lookalike. He strutted up to me as if he were Marshall Dillon. "Frank Bama, I need to talk to you in the bathroom. Now." In the fabulous Florida Keys, words like that either announce your sexual preference or your line of work. I waited until Harry Carey finished his unrivaled rendition of Take Me Out to the Ball Game, before my curiosity got the best of me, and I followed Rudy into the bathroom. "I need to charter your plane. I've got to get to Havana. Do you know how to get to Cuba?" "Yeah. Take a left at the southernmost point of Florida and keep going until you run into something. That'll be Cuba." "This is serious business, Bama. I've gotten permission from the Cuban government to make this trip, but I have to let them know the name of the pilot and the serial number of the plane." He leaned over to me and whispered, "Captain Bama, Joe Merchant was spotted yesterday at a baseball game in Havana. There's a man who has pictures. This is the story of the century." "Yeah, right up there with landing on the moon, I'd say." Rudy wasn't listening. "Joe Merchant, not dead at all, but alive and well, an expatriate rock star living in a communist country. Well, I need to know. Can you take me?" "Why did we have to come into the bathroom to have this conversation?" I asked. "Well, it's part of the story. I like the intrigue of taking a seaplane to Cuba and meeting the blonde, handsome maverick pilot, that's you, in a place like this. My shrimp's getting cold, Rudy. Well, Bama, are you in? It's $200 an hour flight time and $40 an hour on the ground." Rudy nodded his approval. I took a pen out of my pocket and wrote down my phone number at the hangar. "The serial number is N40SB. I'll call the flight service and file a flight plan to Havana. You can call me at that number by 5 and let me know that we do, in fact, have clearance to enter Cuban airspace." "Right-o, Captain." Rudy dropped 2 quarters into the rubber machine and slipped the aluminum foil packets into his pocket. "Can't be too careful these days, you know. Say, you went out with Joe Merchant's sister for a while when she lived down here, didn't you?" The words oozed out of Rudy's fat mouth like sludge, and all of a sudden I felt dirty and began to wash my hands. I yanked on the towel machine. "That's old business, and none of yours. There's weather moving in tomorrow, so I want to leave early and be back as soon as we can, understood?" Aye, Captain. And bring cash. $500 deposit, and I'll expect the rest when we get home." Rudy Barrino rushed out of the restaurant, leaving a trail of bad will behind him. I finished my shrimp and thought about what had just happened. Rudy was about as pleasant as a root canal, but the job couldn't have come at a better time. I'd been wanting to hightail it out of Key West and escape to a new, debt-free life in the Alaskan wilderness, but I'd just been too broke to do it. I figured my trip to Cuba would bring me at least $1,000, and I knew Rudy was good for the money. His old man was loaded and ran the paper as a hobby. His real source of income was hazardous waste disposal. I was smiling when I left Babalu's, and I checked the sky as I headed for my Jeep. A low-pressure through was moving into the area, and the air was getting thicker as the moisture built up. Squalls out of the Gulf Stream lit the distant horizon, and there wasn't a breath of air stirring. "We have work!" I shouted to Hoagie, my golden retriever, who sat in the front seat. He sniffed the air and eyed the small brown bag in my hand. "Oh, it's the noble dog look. What a champion," I said. I opened the bag and tossed a hush puppy into the air. Hoagie caught it, chewed it once, licked his mouth with his long, pink tongue, and waited for the second launch. "It's a high pop-up," I yelled, and tossed the second hush puppy into the sky. Hoagie bolted from the seat into the parking lot and ran under the hush puppy, positioning himself to catch it like a confident outfielder. He opened his mouth a split second before the ball of fried cornmeal fell directly down his throat. "Load up," I called, and Hoagie sprang across the driver's seat to the passenger side. I tossed him the last hush puppy and patted his head, and Hoagie barked and gave me a big lick. I pulled onto the US 1 and drove north, listening to Time Loves a Hero by Little Feat. The air was filled with bugs of every description, and they were cannon fodder for passing cars. I hummed along with Lowell George, but made up my own lyrics. "When my ship comes in," I sang, "I'll be at the airport." The next morning, Rudy Barrino paraded into the Lone Palm Airport dressed in camouflage fatigues, a green beret, and a bandolier stuffed alternately with Slim Jims and Bic pens. On his wrist he sported a diving watch that looked as if it could tell time in every world time zone, do his banking, and split the atom. A Polaroid camera hung around his stumpy neck, and a wad of Florida lottery tickets protruded from the pocket of his flank jacket. "What the hell are the lottery tickets for?" I asked. "Bait," he said proudly. "Bait? These people been living in the Stone Age. A little capitalism will go a long way to get the information I need." Hoagie bounded up the runway with a frisbee dangling from the side of his mouth, and when he saw Rudy, he dropped it and started barking furiously. I called him to my side and bent down to calm him. That's when I saw the .25 caliber Beretta pistol stuck in Rudy's pants. "Let's go, Captain. We're hounds on the scent. Joe Merchant is alive and breathing somewhere over there." He pointed at the horizon. "That's north. Cuba's over there," I said, pointing in the opposite direction. "Oh, you're the pilot." Rudy squinted down at his watch and pressed several buttons. "It's exactly 11:30 Zulu. What's our proposed time off and time en route, Captain?" "I'm not going anywhere with you, Colombo. First the gun, then the money." "Oh, shit," Rudy muttered as he handed over the gun. I pulled out the clip and checked the chamber. I felt like Sheriff Andy Taylor taking away Barney Fife's one bullet.